Welcome back to Investing Talk. Did you catch that wild ride Phio Pharmaceuticals, ticker symbol PHIO, took us on last week?
Oh, yeah. Definitely keeping an eye on that one.
1 minute, it's this under-the-radar biotech company, and the next, bam, their stock explodes over 120% on January 13th. So what's the story?
Well, it's not just market hype,
Okay.
though that's certainly part of it. Phio is sitting on some potentially game-changing technology for treating advanced skin cancers, and their latest clinical trial results have investors buzzing.
Okay, color me intrigued. For those of us who haven't been following Phio closely, can you give us the rundown on what they actually do?
They're developing a new class of cancer therapies based on gene silencing. Imagine being able to switch off the specific genes that drive tumor growth. That's the power of their approach.
Hold on, switch off genes. That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound futuristic, but it's based on real science. A technique called RNA interference, or RNAi-Phio, creates these tiny molecules called siRNA that are designed to target and bind to the RNA produced by a harmful gene.
So they're basically creating a targeted weapon to take out the bad guys at a genetic level.
Exactly. Once the siRNA binds to the target RNA, it essentially neutralizes it, preventing the gene from doing its job. In this case, that job is promoting the growth of skin cancer cells.
Wow. Okay, so what specifically triggered this massive surge in Phio stock? Was it just this concept of gene silencing, or did something specific happen?
The catalyst was the announcement of some seriously impressive results from their phase 1b trial for a therapy called PH762. We're talking about one patient achieving complete tumor clearance gone vanished,
Wow.
and another seeing a 90% reduction in tumor size.
Whoa, those are the kind of results that make headlines. No wonder investors are paying attention.
You're telling me. And it's not just the results themselves. The safety panel also gave the green light for dose escalation in the trial.
Okay.
That's a huge vote of confidence in the therapy's safety and potential.
Okay, so let me ask the question that's probably on everyone's mind right now. Is it time to buy Phio stock?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While the news is incredibly exciting, we have to remember that biotech is a notoriously volatile sector.
Right.
Even with groundbreaking technology, there are always risks involved.
So what should investors be cautious about? What are the potential red flags here?
Firstly, we need to see these amazing results replicated in larger trials.
Okay.
Early-stage trials often involve small patient groups, so it's important to confirm that the initial success holds up as more people are treated.
So it's a bit of a wait-and-see game at this point.
Exactly. And secondly, we need to look at Phio's financial picture. While they've made progress in reducing their net loss, their operating cash flow is still negative, which means they're burning through their cash reserves.
Okay, so they're not quite out of the woods yet financially. It sounds like there's a lot of potential, but also some significant risks to consider.
Precisely. This is a classic high-risk, high-reward scenario.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Phio such a fascinating case study right now.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the market went crazy for Phio after the PH762 news broke. Can you quantify that for us? Just how big was the trading volume spike?
Buckle up. On January 13th, Phio's trading volume hit an astounding 28 million shares. To put that in perspective, their average daily volume is around 372,000 shares.
So we're talking about a 75-fold increase in trading volume.
Yeah.
That's not just a ripple, that's a tidal wave of investor interest.
Exactly. It really highlights the potential of biotech to capture the market's attention. When there's news of a possible breakthrough, therapy investors are ready to jump in.
Okay, so let's assume for a moment that I'm one of those investors who's intrigued by Phio but wants to be smart about it. What should I be watching for in the coming months? What are the key indicators that things are moving in the right direction?
The next set of clinical trial results for PH762 will be critical. Continued success, there will be a major driver of growth, both for the company and its stock price.
That makes sense. We need to see if this therapy can live up to its early promise. What else should we have on our radar?
Keep a close eye on Phio's financials. Can they manage their costs and move towards profitability? That's going to be a key factor in their long-term success. And any news about potential partnerships or collaborations with larger pharmaceutical companies would be a big plus.
Why are partnerships so important in the biotech world?
Partnering with a larger company can be a game changer. It gives smaller biotechs like Phio access to additional resources, expertise, and distribution channels, all of which are crucial for bringing a new therapy to market successfully.
So it's not just about having a great product, it's also about having the infrastructure and support to get it to the patients who need it.
Exactly. And partnerships can often signal validation of a company's technology and potential by bigger players in the industry.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground already.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's dive into those broader trends right after this quick break. We'll be right back with more investing talk.
You know what's really fascinating about Phio's gene silencing technology is that it's part of a much bigger revolution happening in medicine right now.
Oh, I'm all ears. Fill me in.
We're seeing a massive shift toward more targeted and personalized therapies. The old one-size-fits-all approach to medicine is giving way to treatments that are tailored to an individual's unique genetic makeup.
So instead of just treating the symptoms, we're going after the root cause of the problem at the level of our genes. That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is, and gene silencing is a key player in this revolution. It allows us to target specific genes with incredible precision, which opens up a whole new world of possibilities for treating diseases that were once considered incurable.
You mentioned earlier that PHIO is focused on skin cancers.
Yeah.
Is that the only area where gene silencing has potential?
Not even close. The applications are incredibly diverse. We're seeing promising research in areas like infectious diseases, cardiovascular disease, even neurological disorders like Alzheimer's.
Wow, so this technology could potentially impact the lives of millions, even billions of people worldwide.
That's the hope. And that's why investors are so excited about companies like Phio. They're not just developing treatments, they're potentially creating entirely new paradigms for healthcare.
Okay, I'm definitely getting caught up in the excitement here, but let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. We've talked about the potential, but what about the risks? What are some of the challenges that gene silencing therapies face?
One of the biggest challenges is delivery. Getting those tiny siRNA molecules to the right cells in the body and getting them to work effectively once there is no small feat.
So it's not as simple as just popping a pill.
Not quite. Scientists are working on various delivery methods, from nanoparticles to engineered viruses. Each approach has its own advantages and disadvantages, and finding the most effective way to deliver siRNA remains an active area of research.
And what about safety? Are there concerns that silencing certain genes could have unintended consequences for the body?
That's always a consideration with any new therapy, especially one that targets our genes. One concern is off-target effects, where the siRNA might inadvertently bind to and silence genes that weren't the intended target.
So kind of like friendly fire.
That's a good analogy. And researchers are working hard to improve the specificity of siRNA as to minimize the risk of these off-target effects. They're also developing ways to carefully monitor patients for any potential side effects.
It sounds like there's still a lot of research and development to be done, but the potential benefits are so significant that it seems worth the effort.
Absolutely. And that's the mindset of many biotech investors. They're not looking for quick profits. They're investing in the future of medicine, understanding that it takes time and resources to turn groundbreaking science into life-saving therapies.
Speaking of investors, I think it'd be helpful for our listeners to understand how Phio fits into the broader landscape of gene silencing companies. Are they the only player in this game?
Not at all. There are a number of other companies working on gene silencing therapies, each with its own unique approach and areas of focus. Some are further along in clinical development than Phio, while others are still in the early stages.
So it's a competitive field. What are some of the things that differentiate Phio from its competitors? What are their strengths and weaknesses?
One of Phio's strengths is their focus on dermatology, specifically skin cancers. They've chosen to specialize in a particular area, which allows them to build deep expertise and tailor their therapies to the specific challenges of those diseases.
So they're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're carving out a niche for themselves.
Exactly. And within that niche, they've made significant progress in developing a proprietary siRNA delivery system that appears to be very effective.
Ah, so that gets back to the delivery challenge we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've made some strides in overcoming that hurdle.
They have. And that's a key differentiator for them. Of course, they also face challenges. As a relatively small company, they have limited resources compared to some of the bigger players in the gene silencing space.
So it's a classic David versus Goliath situation.
In some ways, yes. But that doesn't mean David can't win. Phio's focused approach, innovative technology, and recent clinical trial success have certainly put them on the map and given them a fighting chance to become a leader in the field.
Okay, so let's say I'm a savvy investor who's intrigued by Phio's story. What are some of the specific things I should be looking for as I do my research? What are the key indicators that could signal future success or potential trouble?
First and foremost, pay close attention to the upcoming clinical trial results for PH762. We need to see if the initial success holds up as more patients are enrolled in the trial.
So those results are a major make-or-break moment for Phio.
They are. And beyond pH 762, look at their broader pipeline. What other therapies are they developing? Are they making progress in those areas? A strong pipeline is a good indicator of a company's long-term growth potential.
So we're looking for a company that's not just a one-hit wonder, but has multiple shots on goal.
Exactly. And as we discussed earlier, partnerships are crucial in the biotech world. Keep an eye out for any announcements about collaborations with larger pharmaceutical companies.
Those partnerships could provide the resources and expertise that Phio needs to take their therapies to the next level.
Precisely. And finally, don't forget about the financials. Are they managing their cash burn effectively? Are they making progress toward profitability? These are all key indicators of a company's financial health and its ability to weather the storms that inevitably come with biotech development.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider. Investing in biotech is not for the faint of heart, but it can be incredibly rewarding for those who are willing to do the work and embrace the risk.
That's a great way to put it. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it's an opportunity to invest in potentially world-changing innovations and be part of something truly transformative.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you said earlier about gene silencing being part of a larger revolution in medicine. Can you tell us a bit more about what's driving this revolution and what the implications are for investors?
Of course. One of the biggest drivers is the explosion of knowledge in genetics and genomics.
Yeah.
The Human Genome Project and subsequent research have given us an unprecedented understanding of the genetic basis of disease.
So we're finally starting to crack the code of our own DNA and see how it influences our health.
Exactly. And that knowledge is paving the way for the development of therapies that can target those specific genetic vulnerabilities. Gene silencing is just one tool in this rapidly expanding toolbox, and we're seeing other exciting advancements like gene editing and cell therapies.
It sounds like we're on the cusp of a golden age of medicine where we can tailor treatments to each individual's unique needs.
That's the vision. And it's not just about treating diseases, it's about preventing them from ever developing in the first place. Imagine a world where we can identify genetic predispositions early on and intervene with targeted therapies to keep those diseases at bay.
That's a truly revolutionary concept. And what does all this mean for investors? What are some of the key takeaways from an investment perspective?
The biggest takeaway is that we're witnessing a paradigm shift in healthcare. The old models of drug development and treatment are being disrupted by these new cutting-edge technologies. And that creates tremendous opportunity for investors who are willing to embrace the change and understand the science behind it.
So it's not just about picking the right stocks. It's about understanding the larger trends that are shaping the future of medicine.
Absolutely. And for those who are willing to do the research, learn the language of biotech, and be patient, the rewards could be significant.
It sounds like we're just at the beginning of this exciting journey.
We are. And there are sure to be many twists and turns along the way, but the potential to improve human health and create a better future is undeniable.
This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of the power and potential of gene silencing and the larger revolution happening in medicine.
I'm glad to hear that. It's always exciting to talk about these advancements and the impact they could have on the world.
Now, before we wrap things up, I want to give our listeners some practical advice on how to approach investing in this space.
Great idea. It's important to remember that biotech investing is not for everyone. It's a volatile sector with high risks and potentially high rewards. But for those who are willing to do their homework and understand the complexities, it can be a very rewarding experience.
So where should investors start? What are the first steps they should take?
The first step is education. Learn the basics of genetics, genomics, and the different types of therapies being developed. There are many great resources available online, including websites, articles, and videos.
So don't be afraid to dive in and get your hands dirty with some science.
Exactly. And once you have a basic understanding, start researching companies that are working in areas that interest you. Look at their pipelines, clinical trial data management teams, and financials.
We discussed those factors earlier in the context of Phio. Are there any other key things investors should be aware of?
One important thing to remember is that biotech investing is a long game. It takes time for these companies to develop and commercialize their therapies. So patience is key. Don't expect to get rich quick.
So it's about investing in the future, not just chasing short-term gains.
Precisely. And finally, don't be afraid to seek out expert advice. Talk to financial advisors, biotech analysts, or even scientists working in the field. The more perspectives you can gather, the better informed you'll be.
Great advice. It's all about being a proactive and informed investor.
Absolutely. And with the right approach, Biotech investing can be both intellectually stimulating and financially rewarding.
This has been an incredibly valuable conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights and expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure. I always enjoy discussing this fascinating and rapidly evolving sector.
Now, I know our listeners are eager to hear your final thoughts on Phio Pharmaceuticals. After all the information we've covered today, what's your overall assessment of the company and its potential?
Phio is an intriguing company with a lot of potential. They're focused on skin cancers, their innovative siRNA delivery system, and their recent clinical trial success have certainly put them on the map. However, they're still a relatively small player in a competitive field, and they face challenges in terms of resources and financial stability.
So it's a mixed bag, as with many biotech companies.
Exactly. There are certainly risks involved, but the potential rewards are also significant. It's a company worth watching closely, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for them.
Well said. And I want to remind our listeners that investing in individual stocks always carries risks. It's crucial to do your own research consult with a financial advisor and only invest what you can afford to lose.
Excellent point. It's always important to approach investing with a level head and a long-term perspective.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything we can on Phio Pharmaceuticals and the exciting world of gene silencing.
It's been a fantastic discussion. I hope our listeners have found it informative and helpful.
I'm sure they have. Now, as we wrap up this episode of Investing Talk, I want to thank our listeners for tuning in and for being part of this journey into the world of biotech investing.
It's been a pleasure sharing this conversation with you and your listeners. I always find it inspiring to see so much interest in the cutting edge of medicine.
It's infectious, isn't it? The potential of these new technologies to transform human health is truly exciting.
Absolutely. And for investors, it's not just about potential profits, it's about being part of something that could truly make a difference in the world.
Well said. And I think that's a great note to end on. For our listeners who are new to biotech, don't be intimidated. Start with your own curiosity, learn as you go, and remember the future of medicine is being written right now.
That's such an important message. Stay curious, stay informed, and never stop asking questions.
Now, before we sign off, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to Investing Talk Podcast for more deep dives into fascinating companies and market trends. And be sure to leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think of Phio Pharmaceuticals. Are you bullish or bearish on this one? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, happy investing.
And remember, the best investment you can make is in your own knowledge.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Investing Talk Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment. I'm sure they have. Now, as we wrap up this episode of Investing Talk, I want to thank our listeners for tuning in and for being part of this journey into the world of biotech investing.
It's been a pleasure sharing this conversation with you and your listeners. I always find it inspiring to see so much interest in the cutting edge of medicine.
It's infectious, isn't it? The potential of these new technologies to transform human health is truly exciting.
Absolutely. And for investors, it's not just about potential profits. It's about being part of something that could truly make a difference in the world.
Well said. And I think that's a great note to end on. For our listeners who are new to biotech, don't be intimidated. Start with your own curiosity. Learn as you go, and remember the future of medicine is being written right now.
That's such an important message. Stay curious, stay informed, and never stop asking questions.
Now, before we sign off, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to Investing Talk Podcast for more deep dives into fascinating companies and market trends. And be sure to leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think of Phio Pharmaceuticals. Are you bullish or bearish on this one? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, happy investing.
And remember, the best investment you can make is in your own knowledge.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Investing Talk Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment.